the recording will be welcome. So we've started recording and the recording will be available on our YouTube channel soon. Everyone, please check your name. If you're using today's link, it was personalized to FISA and you might be coming in with the wrong name. So please change your name if it is wrong.
And to do that, just hover on the top right of your photo, click on the dots, and then the option is rename. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Awesome. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Learning First Brookline School Committee Candidates Forum. We really appreciate the candidates and the viewers joining us tonight. My name is Jody Calabro. I'm a longtime Brookline parent, and I've worked as an educator at a variety of local public schools, including Boston, Watertown, Randolph, and Revere. For anyone unfamiliar with Learning First Brookline, our mission is to maintain and enhance the highest rigor academic opportunities for all Brookline Public School students. You can read more about us at our website, learningfirstbrookline.org. The website also houses upcoming events and a link to join our WhatsApp discussion group. Tonight, our goal is to make this forum punchy, peppy, and above all, interesting. We're going to start with very quick introductions, just a sentence or two, then 11 questions where candidates will have between 30 seconds and 2 minutes to respond. You're not under any obligation to use up your time, by the way. Devorah is going to be running the timer, which will appear on the screen in the upper right corner. When your time is up, you'll hear a very annoying sound. So please respect the timer when it goes off so that everyone has the same amount of time to respond. We'll end the questions with 4 yes or no questions, and then the candidates will each have 30 seconds for a closing statement. For those of you who are willing to stay a little bit longer, we will take questions from the audience at the end. I should confess something before we begin. I'm very comfortable speaking to high school students in the classroom, and I'm pretty comfortable facilitating professional development sessions for colleagues. But this is actually my first time moderating a forum like this, so please bear with me. I'm excited about it, and I hope to bring that same excitement to our candidates and to our audience. I'd also like to thank all the candidates for running. The school committee is definitely a heavy lift. So thank you for stepping up to run, and thank you for being here tonight. The questions tonight were developed collectively by members of Learning First Brookline and from discussions in our community chat group. We'll start alphabetically by first name and then rotate as we move through questions. So Ailit, you will go first for the first question, then Fiza, Laura, and Suzanne. And you're always going to follow the same person going forward. We invite the audience to visit your individual websites for detailed introductions. Instead, to begin with, as an intro, in just 30 seconds, what do you want us most to know? And we'll start with Ait and then go to Fiza, Laura, and Suzanne.
Okay, and timer is in my corner.
All right. Hi, I'm Aileen Schultz. I'm a 20-plus year Brookline resident, a TMM, a former Pearson BHS parent. I understand both the human side of education and the need for sound, sustainable decision-making. I'm also a physician. I work at the Veterans Home and the VA Hospital, and I have extensive experience on the business side of healthcare as chief medical officer, medical director, founder, CEO, a consultant, and advisor to well over a dozen different healthcare companies over the years. I bring this financial and budgeting experience to the school committee, as well as passion for operational efficiency.
Fiza?
Thank you. Sorry, it's tough.
Hi, my name is Faiza Khan, and I'm voiceless today, but I am here. I'm an educator, a public school educator. I have a doctoral degree in education, and I have an MBA. I also have another master's in secondary math education. So education is my passion, and I am all about students and governance and accountability. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Baines Walsh. I'm a teacher. I teach high school history and government. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the school system. My daughter's an 8th grader at Baker. My son is a 5th grader at Driscoll. He's part of their lab program, which is for kids with language-based learning disabilities. I am a researcher. I have a PhD in American history, and I'm a town meeting member for the last 7 years. And that means that I understand how our municipal budget is formed and why it's important to be transparent. And thank you for tonight.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Yeah. Good evening. I'm Suzanne Federspiel. I am an educator by trade. I've also worked in corporate world. I have an MBA as well as several masters. I am the incumbent. I come with institutional history, and I see myself as a bridge going from what has come before, where we've actually had a lot of successes, which I hope to talk about tonight, and going forward through this transition. So I will talk about more of my successes as we go through the evening. And I want to thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. Good timing there. So thank you for the introductions. So the next question, you will actually have up to 90 seconds for the first question that we'll have. We're going to start with Faiza. And the question is, so the current strategic plan for public schools at Brookline is expiring soon, and the school committee will be working on the next one. What are the areas you would like to see be the focus of the next strategic plan, and what would you improve from them from the current plan?
Okay, so, all right. So, as an educator in my role, budgeting is really important for me. I would like to see transparency to the communicate to and to the community, all of them. And I would like to see academic excellence for all students at both ends of the spectrum. With those two in mind, we also want to make sure that our teachers, our students, our parents, our families, all the stakeholders, we are being honest with them about the state of affairs of the school. And so that will be very important for me that we keep that at the center of our strategic plan. Equity is also important, and equity applies to both ends of the spectrums. Students who can handle and take rigorous level courses, plus the students who are actually struggling at the other end. So we want to make sure we take a balanced approach to that. I would like to see that in our strategic plan. And continuing on building bridges and relationships with the community is the key to success. And I feel like that is something that our strategic plan can use. I would like to work on it. I have found much success in it. In Medford, our strategic plan is very crystal clear, and we are constantly communicating it to all stakeholders. I would like to bring that experience also to this Brookline School Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're sorry about your voice, Faiza. Thank you, though.
And Laura.
Hi. So when it comes to the strategic plan, one of the things that I noticed in there was information or goals surrounding our middle school experience. And so one of the things that pointed out is that we don't actually have consistency in scheduling when it comes to core academic classes across our middle schools. There was actually a study that was done in 2022 that found huge disparities in the amount of hours spent on core classes. So for example, in sixth grade, Baker had 135 hours of math compared to Driscoll that was at 163. And that inherently means that we don't have a consistent and cohesive curriculum across our eighth or sixth grades because the time difference spent on, say, math is so big. They also found similar disparities in our English curriculum, our ELA curriculum as well. And that was put into the strategic plan that we're under, but it has not been implemented yet. And so moving forward, one of my goals is to strengthen our middle school experience. One, by creating that consistency in time across our middle schools, making sure that our kids are getting similar content and skill development. This is essential so that our kids can all enter BHS with a same base level of skills and content. I would also like to see us building up our extracurricular activities for the students. I think that's really important for students to have a sense of belonging and for them to be able to figure out what their passions are and what they're good at. So putting a greater emphasis on middle school is something that I think should be part of our next strategic plan, and I'll for that.
Thank you so much. Suzanne?
Yes, hi. So I was on the task force that created the strategic plan. There were about 25 of us. There were staff, there were community members, there were central office, there were 2 school committee members. And so we came up with a strategic plan, which we hadn't had for a while. And that really is our guidepost. And it is ambitious. And we've had lots of transitions since we wrote that 3 years ago. However, we're still on target, not for meeting all of the objectives, but certainly for meeting some of them. So some of our successes has been in the Office of Teaching and Learning. We have a new literacy program for our elementary grades, and we are moving that now next year into the middle grades. So there will be a consistent curriculum in all the middle grades around literacy. We have worked on, equity is certainly important to me. And we have made some gains with that. We've done a lot around SEL, social emotional learning, a sense of belonging, a sense that there is at least one trusted adult in the school that every student can identify. And we've done reviews that we're going to have coming up. So science in particular is an area that we're going to look at K-8 and then into the high school. And so we have work ahead of us, but it is outlined. And we have been reviewing how we've been making our benchmarks and strategic plan. But we'll want to continue to do that, and we'll extend some, and we'll replace some of the objectives that we've met.
Thank you so much. And Elite.
Thank you. So I would break this into probably 4 buckets. First and foremost, academic rigor. So I want to make sure that centering academics is really the primary driver. And I think we should use judicious data collection to drive these decisions. So both on a big problem forest view, high level data like the curriculum reviews, but also breaking the problems and the goals into smaller bits so that we can collect data and get feedback on an ongoing basis. How are teachers using their time? How are students progressing in terms of their comfort in the classroom, and all kinds of sub goals, so that it's not just sort of big picture, but also the small picture. And then I'd like the second bucket to really be concentrated on operational efficiency. So quality improvement, avoiding the inertia of plans that get put in place and then never get looked at again. And avoiding unnecessary bloat, because sometimes these plans just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and sometimes we really need to focus in. Fiscal responsibility is super important. That's the third bucket. And then ensuring that our benchmarks for success are really tailored to each individual kid. So raising the standards for everyone, and where we have achievement gaps, working on closing those gaps. And then we'll talk probably later about technology, but that should be a big piece of the strategic plan too.
You want to add more? Or are you done? Okay. So quick reminder, while we have that extra time, just please check your name if you're using today's link. It was personalized to Faiza, and you might be coming in with the wrong name. So please change your name if it is wrong. The next question is a 30-second one, and we're going to start with Laura. BHS has an elective course called World of Money, which is very popular, and not all students who would like to take it get in. Should financial literacy be a graduation requirement? If yes, as a school committee member, would you consider making this course mandatory? Laura's first.
That's a really good question. And it's one of those things that results in very practical skills that our students need in order to be successful adults. I think there's so many kids out there who don't understand things like, say, compounding interest and what impact compounding interest can have on them. So I think it's a course that should be expanded so that more children have the opportunity to have this really important information. And that's something as a school committee member, I would definitely want to look into, like, what are the opportunities for expanding a course such as that?
Thank you. Suzanne?
Yeah, hi. I think that the state is actually looking to require that we have a financial course. But I would support that. I'm not we could figure out different ways for the students to be able to take that, whether it might be in advisory or even in health. They could have a unit or two on that. But I would support it. I think it's information that students need. I think my own children said to me, we didn't spend enough time talking about money. It would be helpful to do that.
Thank you. Elite?
So generally, I think everything is trade-offs. So when we think about introducing a new course or making it mandatory, I think it's worth also thinking about the possible downside. So generally, yes, I think financial literacy is great. There might be some kids who can test out. There might be kids who are already coming into school with a lot of financial literacy, and I don't always think one-size-fits-all solutions are the ideal. So that's the only qualification I would say.
Faiza.
So yes, I would highly advocate for it because I brought it to Medford High School. It was under my leadership that the math department is offering financial literacy as a mini and the personal finance as the major course. However, it's very important that the state accepts it, because there are athletic associations that are currently saying that they will not accept it as a high school graduation. So I would like the state to be on board with it. Thank you.
Great. You will have up to 2 minutes for the next question, and we're going to start with Suzanne. And the question is, on May 5th, we will be voting on a state record 23.5 million override ballot question. 18 millions of this is which is for the schools. With personnel costs driving nearly 90% of the current public school Brookline budget, as a school committee member, how would you recounsel the desire to offer competitive teacher salaries and benefits with the reality as outlined in the Expenditures and Revenue Study Committee report, which we will link in the chat, of a current salary structure that is, quote, unsustainable over time without a cycle of repeated overrides, end quote. And Suzanne, you're first.
So this is a big question for the voters out there, that's for sure. I support the override. I am also on the negotiations committee with the union, and this is my third time around with them. And so our teachers are highly valued, are highly skilled, and really they are the people on the ground that makes our district #1 in the state right now, according to niche.com. So I want to honor them. I want to make sure that we are giving them the opportunities, both leadership and professional development. But we also know that we have to couch that in the budget itself. And so it is negotiations. We talk to them, they talk to us. They want us to honor them and to give them what they need. And then we negotiate. We don't give them everything that we can. We give them what is reasonable and fair. We want to keep them at the higher end with our, I don't want to say competitors, but our other districts. And because we want to hold on to our good teachers. Our teachers are really strong and they do a lot of extra work, not just what we see in the classroom, but also planning, professional development, working, going to performances to see their students. And so again, we want to honor them and we want to have a fair salary for them and something that is also doable for the town. And that's what we will work on. We will get there.
All set?
All set.
All right. Who's next, Jody? Oh, Jody, you're muted. Tal, can you unmute Jody?
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Eileen, you're next.
Thank you. Great question. Obviously something near and dear to everybody these days. I think, it's important to look at the override and, think about, so my position is I didn't get us to where we are now. We needed this override, but we really cannot rely on future overrides every few years. It creates a lot of uncertainty for teachers and for all the program managers and leaders. It creates a culture where we can't invest in excellence because everybody is worried what's going to happen to my job. So in order to try and close this gap and address the structural problems with the budget, the ERSC has suggested a number of different tacks that the school committee take in order to work at the budget gap. So negotiating reduced healthcare premium contribution is a huge one. We, both the town and PSB, pay employees 83% of their healthcare premiums, and that is more than comparable communities. It's a budget buster. And we also pay for part-time employees above 18 hours a week, so we might be able to address some of the budget spend by looking at how we distribute benefits. Of course, we want to support teachers. We want to retain the best teachers and all the staff who face the students and all the staff in general. I would support the superintendent in these negotiations. The ERSC has also talked about managing wage expenses so that they match the projected year-over-year revenue growth, evaluating Munis as a townwide financial system, which is something similar to what I did in my work as in the nonprofit leadership roles. ensuring teaching assignments align with contractual terms, reducing our ed tech spend. There's a lot of places where we can find efficiencies and create better economics so that going forward, we don't reach more and more overrides.
And Faiza?
Yes, thank you. I feel that until Proposition 2.5 stays, we will always be in the position of an override just because the expenses, the way it's going, inflation and whatnot, it's not going to be possible to stay within our means if 2.5 proposition stays. With that said, teachers, the collective bargaining unit, and the negotiations team is working together. I think I have faith in them that they will come to a comparable peace where both parties can come together. It truly should be a partnership. I think it's a partnership. Everybody has to give something up at times, and then it's just give and take. And I think both parties have the best interest of students in mind, and we have to have that faith in them. And we have to have the faith in our superintendent, which I definitely do, is that we need to support her in her quest to making sure the schools are running effectively and efficiently. So yes, we can do some trimming here or there, but in the end, it's the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, that will determine how we do it. Yes, we have to look at the comparable communities, absolutely, but we have to also understand that no two schools schedules are alike, no two schools teaching loads are alike. Sometimes we start comparing apples and oranges, and it's misconstrued as not respecting the profession. I think both parties need to understand that, and they do, that we have to come together at the end, even if we are comparing apples and oranges. Thank you.
And Laura?
So, as been stated before, I also support this override, but I agree with this idea that we need to be careful about moving into the future. Being sort of depending on override after override is probably not politically sustainable. And as was pointed out, it does create uncertainty, especially among our faculty who might be scared that if an override doesn't pass, they could end up losing their job. So we need to create a greater sense of financial stability for the sake of our students and for our families, our students as well. So the Expenditure and Revenue Committee did point out that one of the biggest budget busters is the fact that we pay 83% of the healthcare premium, not just for teachers, but for other municipal employees as well. And that is way more generous than a lot of peer communities. Newton, I believe, is now at around 75%. And so that means there is room. I mean, we have to negotiate not just with the unions through the school, the educators, the custodians, the food workers. It would have to involve all the unions in town collectively. But I do think that that is a place where we need to seriously consider how much we are paying. And even dropping that percentage a few points, 83 to 80%, which save a significant amount of money and help get us on more sure financial footing. We do value our teachers here in Brookline. We do have very competitive salaries, especially compared to peer districts. And I think that is really good for attracting talent. But we need to make sure that we are not wildly ahead of peer districts. Again, we want to attract the best and brightest. We want to attract people who really care deeply about our students, but we have to make sure that our model is one that is sustainable. So thinking about the way that steps and lanes are paired with with COLA could be really important. So if I'm on school committee, that's something that I'm going to look into and advocate for.
Thank you all. And now we're going to have a 1-minute question going to Elite first. Relative to peer districts, Brookline High School offers significantly fewer AP options to sophomores and juniors in core subjects: English, social studies, math, and science. At Brookline High, one AP option is available to all juniors, and 2 more are available only if space permits, while peer districts offer 5 or more AP options by junior year, sometimes even starting in 9th grade. There's a link to the full core AP comparison table on our website posted in the chat. Do you consider this to be an issue of concern? And if so, should the school committee have a say on it? Why or why not? Eileen.
Yes, big issue. The fact that we offer 3 APs in a good day, on a good day, to 11th grader, none to 9th and 10th. We're dead last in terms of APs offered to 11th grader and way at the bottom of total AP offerings for the communities in our region. I think we need to raise the ceiling, and to do that, we should be offering more APs. Kids should be able to take multiple APs per year if the kids are able. And I think that creates a culture of excellence and an intellectual culture and a place where everyone wants to do well. So, taking AP US history as an example, I've seen in my kids that this is very exciting to them to actually dive in deep. And we should be striving to create this intellectual culture for students who want it. Not for everybody necessarily, but let it be there for Brookline to be a place of excellence.
Liza?
It's so great. Every school system is different, and I definitely believe in the rigor of it. I had taught AP Computer Science course, one of the toughest ones. I do believe that it's a matter of philosophy, the school leadership's philosophy, the district leadership's philosophy. And, you can achieve the same results. I have seen kids perform excellently in regular standard courses and not be under stress. And they didn't want to be in AP or honors courses. And I have seen kids in honors and AP being under a lot of stress. So I feel like every school has a system in place. I feel Brookline school system is doing well. It's one of the best out there. And AP is not a be-all, it-all. It actually, if certain courses are not there, it actually helps students work in a stress-free environment and still get there. It all depends on how you want to get to your destination. You will get there.
Thank you. Laura?
So I am an AP government teacher, and so I'm very familiar with APs and the College Board. And one thing that I noticed looking at your chart was actually the lack of AP exams in history and the humanities. And there's a lot more in, say, math and science. And so for our students who are more humanities based, there's not a lot of options for them to really grow and thrive and challenge themselves the same way there are for our STEM students. Moreover, because so many of our APs are concentrated in our senior year, that actually adds to stress because that's the only time you could take it. Where if you could spread those out, take more as juniors, then maybe you may not feel the need to take as many as seniors. I think we also need to point out the equity issue. This is an opportunity to gain college credit. And so by allowing kids to take these classes in high school, they might be able to get credit in college and therefore graduate quicker and save money and take out less debt. And I think that's something that we have to pay attention. So I would advocate for, as a school committee, for the ability to have additional AP courses.
And Suzanne?
So I looked at the chart, I looked at it pretty carefully, and actually we are not way behind our peer districts. So we actually have just added 2 additional AP courses. They're in the computer science area. So we are at 14, and we do not offer AP in English. And that's been a decision that the district has made for quite a while. We do help students prepare for the AP test in English, and they do quite well on it. So sometimes AP classes limit how the course is taught or what the content may be, and sometimes it leads to teaching to the test. So I certainly am okay with AP courses, but I think also that we have offered a wide range of courses at all levels. And we're actually with everybody else, and we also offer an opportunity for early college. So some students are taking courses at colleges. I think we're with Mass Bay, and so they can get credit that way as well.
Thank you all. Another 30-second question, back to Faiza. In a recent school committee meeting about the 9th grade social studies course, the president of the Brookline Educators Union advocated for maintaining the current process for new courses at BHS, which is that only teachers can propose new courses. Do you believe that there should be other pathways to initiating new courses at BHS? Faiza first.
Okay, so I believe that it can be a collaborative process. I mean, if there is a need, as a department head, sometimes parents have proposed it to me, and I have taken it to the teachers. I have discussed what's our capacity, what's our collective bargaining unit looking like, those pieces, parts of it. I've discussed it with the principal. It's a whole team process. We have defined a process for it. So
Thank you. Laura?
I think we have to create multiple feedback loops. I think there are times when students, I know at my school, have asked for certain courses to come and be available. Our version of financial literacy was actually proposed by the students themselves because they felt that that was a skill that they wanted to see further developed. And then faculty ran with that idea and it was ultimately approved. Sometimes parents come forward with ideas. And so I think we have to keep in mind the various stakeholders and what they value and make sure that there's a place for that to be heard and be part of the curriculum development process. And if I'm on school committee, I would definitely advocate for additional feedback loops.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Yeah, so there are other pathways, but they need to go through the staff. Our teachers know our students best. They know how to present, how you put together a course, what a curriculum would look like, what a scope and sequence. So they get input from things even like the Innovation Fund, who would have somebody might have an idea there, or a teacher might have an idea and go to the Innovation Fund and say, how could we fund this? But then that comes to the school committee for approval. And that's the process that is built in and seems to work.
And Ait? 30 seconds.
So I agree that teachers should be able to propose new courses and they should be leading the decision making. But our job as a school committee is to do more than just rubber stamp. So we can help support bridging between the community, consensus building. This is something I've worked on in other leadership roles where you listen. We can be an aid to the superintendent and to the governance structures by hearing the community and bringing that back to the administration with helpful suggestions.
Thank you all again. We're back to a 1-minute question. We're going to start with Laura. What are your thoughts on educational technology known as ed tech? And would you support undertaking a comprehensive ed tech review? If yes, what would you propose to include in that review?
Yes, I would absolutely want to do an ed tech review. And I think there's a couple of places that we need to look at. So first of all, what programs are we paying for? And are these programs giving us the bang for the buck that we think they will? Are they pedagogically appropriate for the ages of the students that they're using? And do they give us higher, what is the return on investment? In general, a lot of people during COVID, we threw a lot of money at ed tech trying to make distance learning work. But what we have seen and what multiple studies have shown is that kids tend to learn better with direct instruction as opposed to videos and with pencil and paper. And so trying to think about what ed tech is actually doing a value add and how much is it costing is really important. I'd also like to look at a comprehensive review of the use of Chromebooks, especially in our lower grades. Those students in particular should probably be using pencil and paper, not just because it's easier to learn that way, but they need to be developing the fine motor skills that are associated with handwriting. And students need to be learning how to take notes by hand as well. So I would absolutely, if I was on school committee, support a review.
Thank you, Suzanne.
So EdTech is here. It is all around us. I really am kind of old-fashioned. I prefer low tech whenever possible, especially for the lower elementary grades. It's just, I go into classrooms now, I do tutoring, and there's just a lot going on with tech. Some of it seems appropriate. Some of it, as Laura said, actually, it is not direct instruction, and students would do better with that. Certainly, we ended up cutting some of our ed tech people in our elementary K-8s. And so we'll see what happens with that. They offered a lot to teachers in terms of support and thinking about hands-on projects that might use tech as supplemental, but not as the main work that they're doing. And also, so ed tech is about leasing Chromebooks and all of that. It's also about, AI and how do we bring that into the classroom and what do we think about that? And that's going to take a lot of thought and hard work to figure that out.
Thank you. Ait?
Great question. I think there is a lot that we can identify with in our personal lives in terms of subscription inertia and technology that we buy that then becomes outdated or that requires extra cost to maintain. Our building designs have incorporated a lot of educational technology in terms of smart boards that may be defunct very soon. I think that as much as possible, we need to be thoughtful in our approach, and we need to not get stuck in this inertia mode. We have to always be looking at our spend carefully. What is the goal? Are we getting the results that we're hoping for? And if not, be nimble and be flexible and be willing to change. So I wasn't there when Chromebooks were introduced into younger grades, but I suspect that we should be pulling back there. But that's somewhere where we need to look at the data. We should probably be doing less online work overall. Again, there's data there. We should look at it, and we should let ourselves be guided by that so that we can get the best results.
Thank you. And Faiza.
Thank you. Ed tech is something I deal with. Again, we subscribe to certain math programs and we subscribe it, but we keep an eye on how much is it being used and how much of it is just busy work versus non-busy work. So in mathematics, paper and pencil is always the best way to go. That's what I encourage my teachers to do. That's where I give them feedback to do. However, there are certain times when they have to use that, and certain teachers use certain programs more frequently. Like the AP Calc teacher uses her program very frequently. AP Stats teacher uses that. So you have to go on a case-by-case basis. You really have to see the effectiveness of the program, the efficiency of the program, and what's the purpose of this program? Are we just using it to just, kill time? Or is it really bringing us some kind of value for our kids? So that's important. So yes, ed review is not a bad idea to do.
Thank
Ed
you
tech review,
all.
sorry.
It's okay. Sorry, the time is annoying. So the next one is actually a bit involved. So we're actually going to give you 2 minutes each for this one. We're going to start with Suzanne. And so the question is, a 2023 external study of Brookline's middle schools outlined several weaknesses, including inconsistencies across the schools. It also stated that, quote, the district intentionally does not currently provide advanced level academic courses at the middle school level, end quote. Our middle school model also significantly limits opportunities for extracurricular activities for middle schoolers due to the relatively small size of each middle school. How would you propose to improve our middle schools, and would you consider revisiting the K-8 model? Suzanne.
Well, there's a lot there. I mean, we're talking about the whole middle school program. We're talking math, science, social studies, and the whole bit, and English. So that is one of our big things, is to think about, one of our big buckets is to think about the inconsistencies, mostly around the timing that the programs have from school to school. So each school has, kind of their own culture, the way they go about using their resources. So for instance, in some schools, the 8th graders read to the 1st graders, and in other schools, they do hands-on kind of social justice projects. And so there are lots of things that work well in a particular school, but we're talking about trying to get consistency across. And so when we do these reviews, for instance, literacy, that we are going to have the same literacy curriculum across all schools. And we're going to then look at science and make sure our science, again, the students are getting the education they need based on the standards and frameworks from the state, but we want to make sure they have about the same amount of time and the same opportunities. When is another example. It's a what I need block, and it's trying to help those students that may need either an enriched projects and programs, or perhaps they need extra support. And so the idea behind WIN is that students get what they need, that they are not bored, but in fact are challenged. And the teachers are working with groups of students to make that work. It's also the same time, I said, if people need extra support, they get that. Extracurricular, that's a challenge because we have 8 schools and 8 locations. However, we have done some really good things around that. it does give some students more opportunities because it's a smaller group in their school, for instance, in performances, musicals, and there are things like orchestra that's town-wide. So that also tries to bring extracurricular in.
Thank you. I know, annoying timer. Elite, you're next.
Okay, so I think my general approach is to be careful to understand the problem before we jump to a solution. So we know there is a problem. We hear that kids are coming into high school at all different levels, and then sometimes we jump to a solution about unleveling ninth grade. But if we roll back and look upstream at the problem, it's no secret that our sixth to eighth grades are not as strong as they used to be. And Bella has talked about creating horizontal alignment and vertical alignment. I'm frankly less concerned with counting the number of minutes and having exactly the same across different schools. I'm not so concerned that everybody get exactly the same opportunity. But what we need is flexibility so that we have higher standards overall, so that kids get to high school, they have all the skills, and maybe some kids have extra skills in one department or another, but everybody has the skills and the content that they need to thrive. And this means actually we probably have to look upstream too. It means higher standards for elementary school so that when kids get to middle school, they're prepared. And in terms of the extracurriculars, I think the solution may not be necessarily to try and provide every single thing at every single middle school, but rather have some flexibility where we have kids maybe going from one school to another to join in particular extracurricular activities. I think it's really important to keep the focus on both what is going to get the kids the right fit, each kid, and also what is going to be financially responsible so that we create sustainable models that actually work. So then using data to see is what we're doing, are the solutions actually helping? And before we jump to solutions, I think the financial modeling has to be looked at with a very keen eye, looking underneath the numbers and asking the hard questions and really understanding what we're talking about before we try to, jump to overly simplified solutions.
Thank you. Faiza?
Yes, thank you. So, where I'm currently working, there are two middle schools, and say no more about vertical and horizontal alignment because I am the K through 12 director. I get to oversee all the elementary schools math and the middle school math and at the high school math as well. So what's really important is this consistency piece. And it can happen to a certain extent between the two schools. And it is happening. For example, the same program, illustrative mathematics, is being used. But each school's population is slightly different. So the teachers have to cater to that their need. They have to differentiate. Program offerings can be slightly different as well, although we try our level best. For example, Math Counts program, the club, it's happening at one school and it's picking up at the other school because the school's priorities were different. So yes, school's culture, school's population, who is it serving? How is it serving? What's the scheduling looking like? Scheduling is a huge piece in public school education. So that piece is very important. Now, the ideology, the philosophy needs to be there that we want consistency in schools. However, when it comes to the practical thing, there are so many moving pieces that the principals have to consider, the curriculum coordinators have to consider, and overall, the district leadership has to consider. Sometimes you work towards them and it takes time. Sometimes they are very quick. So, yes, I'm happy to reconsider the middle school model, both of them. In where I am, it's K through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 through 10. So I think both models have their own strengths. If that's what we are going to think about, we can have focus groups, discuss it. I'm open to that. However, we need to know, we should know, as we do already probably, the pros and cons are with everything. And we just have to see what matches our needs the best. Thank you.
And Laura.
So one of the things that we tend to talk about in the education world is something called backwards design, which is the idea of, okay, what do you want a ninth grader to look like? Like what skills, what content do you want them to have? And then you work backwards to figure out how do you get how do you get the child to that place? And I think we need to be thinking about backwards design when it comes to what do we want from a ninth grader? And of course, eventually, what do we want from our seniors? And so trying to see where are we seeing those skill gaps? What are our ninth grade faculty noticing? Because we've often heard that ninth grade faculty can tell where a student went to middle school based on what where they excel in skills and where there are gaps. And I think that the fact that people can tell that is indicative of a larger problem. And part of that problem we've talked about already in terms of, the amount of time spent on core subjects. Some kids are getting additional math compared to others. Some kids are getting more time on social studies compared to others. And so, how can we create some level of consistency? Creating a system where all teachers agree that we are going to hit this content and these skills. And then there could be room for additional enrichment for students who are ready for more, students who are ready for a higher level of challenge. And there can be additional room for students who need additional scaffolding and support. And that way, we are really meeting the needs of all of our students so that by the time they get to high school, we have a baseline of what we expect of a student emerging from our middle school experience. And I think that's something that's going to be really important for us as we move forward to really dive deep and invest in our middle schools. And that's something that if I am elected to school committee, I'm really going to advocate for because I do believe that that's very foundational and it will allow our students to thrive when they get to BHS.
Thank you all. The following that we have is a natural follow-up to that first one. It's a 1-minute question. We're going to start with Elite. And the question is, the same middle school report also found that Brookline students and parents want more opportunities for challenge, especially in math. It's estimated by teachers that about a third of the K-8 Brookline families send their kids to external math programs like RSM, Russian School of Math, which raises concerns about equitable access to a sufficiently challenging math curriculum in K-8. This is an ongoing issue, and there are no current plans to address it. Is the lack of rigor and access to enrichment in K-8 math, and especially in middle school math, an issue the school committee should take up? And if yes, how would you address it? We're going to start with Elite.
So 100%, I think that is part of the school committee's role. The school committee, though, has only a few levers to pull. So it's not to say that we're going to get involved in the nitty gritty of exactly what we're teaching and which, what curriculum and what levels we're teaching our students, how we're teaching our students math. But globally, we should be supporting the superintendent. And if we hear feedback like this from the community, which we are hearing, then it is our job as the school committee to bring that back to the superintendent with solutions, right? So there are constraints, there are financial constraints, but there are also creative ways to try and introduce more rigor, more opportunity for excellence, flexibility perhaps across letting kids level up or test out of certain courses. There's all sorts of options if you're willing to be creative. And I think the important thing is that we try to raise the ceiling for everybody.
Thank you. Liza?
All right, thank you. So, thank you. This is a wonderful question, something that I deal with almost on a weekly, if not monthly basis. In fact, course recommendations are in, and I'm dealing with a few cases here. Russian School of Mathematics is a great enrichment program. My own kids attended it. However, it does not cover every single standard that a public school is supposed to teach. And yes, there are some students who are always ahead of the game. And yes, it does create equity issues. However, the biggest thing to keep in mind is that, RSM is, again, a supplemental program. A public school education is always going to be solid if it's done the right way. Teachers are differentiating in their classrooms to make sure that they are meeting the needs of the students in the classrooms. And yes, there will be some of us who will send kids to RSM, but that shouldn't be the norm. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
I think the fact that there are so many Brookline families that are engaging in RSM and other supplementary programs tells us that there's a very real thirst from our community for additional enrichment. It's also, has been sort of brought up, an equity issue because the people who can afford that additional enrichment have access to it, but people who do not have the same type of disposable income do not. And that creates very real gaps that need to be addressed. So I believe it's really important for school committee to work together with the superintendent to find avenues of enrichment for our students, especially our elementary and middle school students who don't have the same access to electives and differentiated classes that our high school students do. And so I do think that the fact that so many kids are involved is indicative of a problem. It's indicative of something that our community wants. And we owe it to the community to investigate and see what type of additional enrichment we can bring.
Thank you. And Suzanne.
The math department is looking, they have recently adopted a new math curriculum, and so they will be looking for feedback from families, from the teachers, from students on the effectiveness of the new curriculum, and looking to see if it needs to be tweaked, if the teachers need more help with the development and the implementation. And so we have lots of opportunity right now to give feedback. Again, it's driven mostly by the coordinators of the department, of the math coordinators in this case. We do have opportunities for enrichment. There are clubs, for instance, like robotics clubs. There are other clubs where they might look at math and do that. And that would be offered kind of across the board. And so there are some opportunities, but there are also a need to look at, enrichment for those who are ready for it.
Thank you all. We have another 1-minute question. This one will start with Faiza. And the question is, the district regularly pays for external studies of specific programs. And some recent examples are middle school, the World Language Program, and the Social Studies Department. These external studies typically offer valuable insights and recommendations, but there is currently no transparent or easy way to follow up on whether any actions were taken to address weaknesses identified in those studies. Do you consider this to be a problem? And if so, what actions would you take as a school committee member to address it? We start with Faiza, and it is 60 seconds.
Thank you. So it's my basic philosophy that we need to be transparent about anything and everything. We owe this to our community members, every one of them, not just the parents. So I would say that if there is a need, and I see a need for it myself, that we need to be transparent about these pieces. I would like to know the reasons as to why that hasn't been done so far. I feel that transparency brings a trust. It helps build trust that it seems like we are not there yet as a community, and I would definitely support it. But I would support it while supporting our superintendent, and I think that that's the request we can put in, and see what time frame she gives us, and then go from there. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
I think transparency is really important. And I think it's important on a couple different levels. One, if we are paying for these studies, we want to make sure that we're being good fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars. And we want our community to know that if we've commissioned a study and that costs money, that we are using and we are engaging with the results of that study. And so again, that's important. If the study has found some sort of deficiency someplace, we owe it to the community to thoughtfully and transparently engage in a conversation in public about what was found and what are some possible solutions. And again, this is a place for us to work collaboratively with the superintendent. But I think the way that you build trust that we are, again, taking care of the pedagogy and taking care of taxpayer dollars is with open, honest, transparent conversation where we talk about trade-offs, we talk about the findings, and then collaboratively move forward with solutions to address the issue.
Thank you. On to Suzanne.
many of the recommendations find their way through Office of Teaching and Learning, and they ended up in the strategic plan. So there are benchmarks in there. There is a place there for the community, the public to look at that and to check. And then we report back we go through often the curriculum subcommittee, and then we report to the whole school committee on where we are in some of these. And two examples, one is the vision of a learner, which was recommended that we work on that, and we are currently working on that. Surveys are going out to families. They've gone out to the teachers. We got opportunity as a school committee to respond to what we would see as a vision of a learner. That work is ongoing, and we are sharing that with the public. And another example is MTSS, multi-tier systems of support, which has been highly recommended that we implement that. And again, we've had much work done on that, and we're continuing to share those results.
Thank you. And Elite?
So I'd like to look at this a little bit from a higher level view. And when we commission a report, I would want to make sure that we are building into the project this data collection and improvement cycles. So doing the initial study should only be step one of the process. We should be investing, though, in the whole process or not at all, right? So if we're going to invest in something, it should include multiple steps of data collection along the way, sharing that data back with the school committee, the administration, back to the community, and then the improvement cycles and the effort needed for those inevitable improvement cycles. The strategic plan is great, but it's sometimes too slow a process. And I think where the school committee with its 9 members can really be helpful is bringing in some flexibility, some nimbleness, so that we can get this conversation and feedback loop going on a more regular basis.
Thank you. Thank you all. So the penultimate full format question is a 60-second one. We're going to start with Laura. And the question is, as textbooks are becoming a relic, it has become more and more challenging for families to know what their kids are doing in school. More recently, some of our peer districts have begun adopting a policy of posting very detailed course syllabi online in support of transparency. We're pasting in the chat right now an example from Medford High School, where all social studies courses have detailed syllabi called Scope and Sequence, posted online. In Brookline, there is typically only a very short course description available publicly and very limited information provided at Back to School Note. We have 2 questions here. First, do you think this level of transparency and public posting of syllabi is something public schools of Brookline should pursue more broadly, and the school committee make a matter of policy, and why so? And second, do you think such a policy would conflict with teacher autonomy? We'll start with Laura.
So I'll start with the second one about teacher autonomy. I don't think it conflicts, and I'm saying that as a teacher. Scope and sequence, where you're laying out like what are the general aims of each unit, what are the major questions, what are the major things you look at. Those are documents that are a kind of macro. It's overarching, and then it's up to the teacher to figure out how to bring that alive on the daily basis. So posting of scope and sequence, I think, is not onerous on teachers. It's something that we have to develop anyways, and it's not the minutia like a lesson plan. So I do think that that's something that is appropriate to ask. I think having scope and sequence gives a lot of information to our families, and it gives information to students as they're trying to decide what courses to select. I think that type of transparency can let students know what the course is about, will this fit their area of interest? Are there other courses that they can consider? So I do think that this is something that the school committee, probably part of the policy subcommittee, should absolutely look into. It's a conversation that I want to be a part of, and I think it could be a really beneficial thing for the district.
Thank you. Susan?
The most purchased curriculums do have a scope and sequence, so that's where you start. I always say that the what is determined by the standards of the state and the frameworks, and the how is determined by the teachers. So the teachers do have autonomy in how they present the materials, how they teach it, how they assess it. And so that's really important. but the what is pretty standard, certainly in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so I know that the high school departments are looking to get a little more detailed in their scope and sequence. They do have some questions that are there that tell you about the units that they're teaching, but they're also looking to make that a little more available to the public so that you could have a deeper look into what it is they're teaching and what the main units are. So again, it's the standards that is consistent across the state, but the how is really up to the teachers, and that's the exciting part.
Thank you. Elite.
So I think this is an important conversation to have, and it's probably an ongoing conversation to have. There are certain policy requirements that say our curricula has to be posted in school libraries, in the public library, and if we're not doing that, then we should be fulfilling our obligation. But there is a cost to this too. And if we're not doing it, there's probably a reason we're not doing it. And that's where I would look first, right? Is it that the teachers and the curriculum developers don't have time? And in that case, is this something that we can offload from the teachers and maybe use volunteers or AI or other potential solutions? Even have an open mind. Should we be thinking about that cost versus the cost of just using a textbook? There are certain things that we know have worked historically, and not everything needs a shiny high technology solution. It's possible that in some places we want to get back to the basics. But I don't see this as a conflict to teacher autonomy. It just gives teachers the general structure.
Thank you. And Faiza.
Yes, so Medford High School is where I work, and I was very happy to see that being used as an example. We did this for the mathematics department. I can tell you how we did it. I sent out an email to the teachers that we need to get it done. And within 2 department meetings, we were able to create it during the department meeting time. Teachers have it already. As was mentioned, all it needed to be done was put in a template and just look at, if it's flowing, fine. Is this the most realistic picture? Is it what we are doing this year? And done. And so, yes, DESI tells us exactly the math standards and other standards. And I determine with my teachers as to how it'll be taught. We discuss it together, what resources are being used, where are they coming from, are they going to be covering the what, and that's how it's done.
Thank you. So we started off this forum with an open-ended question, and we're going to end this round with another one. It's a 60-second question. We're going to start with Suzanne. And the question is, if you could magically implement a single change at Public Schools of Brookline, be it to the strategic plan, the curriculum, the structure across K-12, or policy, what would you choose to do?
One magic thing?
One magic thing. Anything of your...
Well, I mean, right now I do the budget because that's really where all our energy is going. So I would magically fix the budget and we would have all this money. I mean, money isn't everything, but it certainly does help. And I would then be able to apply the money to equity issues. That would be one that I would look at very carefully. I would look at making sure that our teachers have opportunities for collaboration and common planning time. I think that's critical for the work to be done, an opportunity to look at student work. I would offer leadership opportunities so that we can grow our own leaders within the district. That would use some of all that extra money we're getting. And I would make sure that families feel connected. We had to eliminate one of our communications staff. And I think that is really valuable for our community out there and our families.
Thank you. Elite?
So I agree that it comes down to the budget. I think if we can correct some of the budget gaps and get into a more comfortable place where our finances make sense, then we can start investing in all kinds of other things. It's hard. It's going to require a lot of work. How do we get there? And sometimes there's not one big shiny solution. although the healthcare contribution is quite a big nut. But sometimes it is just finding the operational efficiencies everywhere so that every single thing we're doing, we're thinking about, is this the best way to do this? Is there a better way to do this that will then give the teachers more time to do their jobs, give the special ed staff, give the guidance counselors more time to spend with students? And I think that's really, if I could wave a magic wand, I would see everything working smoothly behind the scenes so that the teachers can do the human contact piece of their job.
Thank you. Faiza?
All right. So I would say a communications director is important, and so is the data director, because there is much need for both these positions. Communications director will keep the line of communication between the community, the stakeholders, us, and the administration all clear. Sometimes we are doing good things, but they are not getting communicated. So that will be helpful with that. We do need a data director, as Bella mentioned herself. It's extremely important. A lot is riding on that piece. And so that will be something that I would advocate for. I would want. One thing that I would advocate for is the middle school review, middle school structure and strengthening our middle schools. I feel like that's a really important piece that, connects the pipeline, elementary to high school. Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura?
To me, this question is fundamentally about our values. And if we had a magic wand and so money wasn't an option, how would we spend it? And for me, I think the number one thing that I would think about is creating the appropriate supports for every single one of our students. And that support can look different for different children and at different points in their academic journey. So that support could be high quality special education. It could be scientific based literacy programs. It can be social emotional support. It could be additional enrichment for additional challenge. And the reason I think this is really important is that we have to understand that support and rigor are not opposites. They go together. They support each other. And when we have both the appropriate support for the child and rigor, we can have the highest of expectations, and Brookline should be a place of high expectations. And so if I had a magic wand, I would make sure that every child, every single child had what they needed in order to reach for the stars and be able to live out their fullest potential.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll end the question section with 4 quick yes or no answers. Yes or no answers. Please answer only yes or no. We're going to start with Elite and go in the order that we've been going in. So the first one is, if the results of the WISP data collection in the fall were to come back neutral or minimally positive, would you support continuing to offer a D-level social studies class as the only option available to 9th graders?
We're doing 60 seconds, Jody?
Yes, no.
60 seconds. Oh, not,
No,
not,
yes,
this isn't
no.
timed? Okay, sorry. Oh, you're right.
I think it's
Sorry.
just a yes, no answer.
No, although there were a couple double negatives in there. So just to clarify, I would not support continuing WISP as the only option if the data was not supportive.
Faiza.
If data is not supportive, no, data needs to support it.
Laura.
No.
And Suzanne.
It's not the only option, so I wait to see what the options are.
The second question, also yes, no answers only. Do you think Brookline High School should continue to allow cell phone use during the school day outside of the classroom? Faiza.
Outside of the classroom, could you clarify what is outside?
So that would mean that students would be able to use the cell phones in the hallways, in the cafeteria, if they have a free block.
Yes.
Laura?
No.
Suzanne?
I would want to get data from the deans and the head of school and the teachers and even the students.
And Elite?
Probably not.
Question 3. Did you complete and submit the BEU Political Action Committee endorsement questionnaire seeking their endorsement? Laura,
No.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Elite,
No.
Fiza.
Yes, because I wanted to show my respect that way.
And the fourth one, following up on Bob's comments at the March 19th school committee meeting and prior meeting, do you think administrators at Brookline High School should teach one section alongside their administrative duties? Suzanne?
I would need to talk to the administrators, get their input.
Elite?
If they are capable, yes.
Fiza?
I mean, I would love to, but I don't have the time to. I'm a K through 12 director. It's just not possible. But believe me, I would be in the classroom in a heartbeat if given.
And Laura?
The principal of the school I teach at does have a section of ninth grade biology, and it's really wonderful that it allows her to have a relationship with the students and to understand the experience of the teachers. I do believe it's beneficial.
Thank you all so much. That was heroic. To conclude, we want to offer you each 30 seconds as an opportunity to expand on any of your prior answers or to share anything else that you think is relevant about your candidacy that we did not get to cover. We used a random number generator to set the order of the answers to this one, just to shake things up a bit. Suzanne, you get to go first, then Fiza, then Elite, and lastly, Laura.
And what do I get? 1 minute or 30
You
seconds?
get 30 seconds.
Okay. So what I want people to know is that I'm an educator by profession, that I love the public schools. I love the public schools of Brookline. I am excited to continue my work. We have done so many good things. I enjoy working with the superintendent. I want to support her as she goes through her transitions and how, as the committee reforms, I would love to work on having the committee work well together with lots of different views. That's just fine. So I look forward to getting people's votes on May 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Fiza?
Thank you. I feel like this is a really critical time for Brookline schools, and I wouldn't have gone for this position, given my other things, if that was not the intense need I felt. I'm a public school educator, administrator. I work with the superintendent all the time, almost on a weekly basis. I know the ins and outs of public school education. So I ask for your vote May 5th because that's what my expertise is like. Thank you.
Elite?
So we all want what's best for students, families, teachers, and schools for every single student. And we've talked a lot about academic excellence, and I strongly believe we need financial stability to be able to invest in our teachers and programs. I think I bring unique value to the table that is deep and broad financial and budgeting experience, as well as a passion for operational efficiency and a focus on fiscal responsibility. I'm not afraid to ask bold questions and follow through on the answers to drive real progress. And that's what I would hope to bring to the school committee.
Thank you. And Laura?
I'm an educator, a parent, a researcher, a town meeting member. And all of those different parts of my background, I think, is really going to serve me well if I earn your vote and make it onto the school committee. I think I am somebody who is data driven, somebody who understands what quality pedagogy looks like in the classroom, someone who knows how to analyze data to make sure the decisions that we make are evidence based, as well as I understand how everything we're doing impacts the real world experience of students and teachers. And I will fight to make sure that our students and teachers best that they can get.
Thank you so much to Elite, Fiza, Laura, and Suzanne for all your thoughtful responses this evening and for engaging in the conversation with honesty and integrity. We're now going to open things up to questions from the audience. For those willing to stay a little bit longer, please submit your questions if you're in the audience to the Zoom chat. Note that you can either submit them for all of us to see, or you can just submit to the host if you prefer to remain anonymous. I am going to read those questions aloud, and each candidate will have about 20 to 30 seconds to respond. I think we're going to pick a number. We'll start with Elite and then continue as before. So let's begin. The first audience question is, Mayor Michelle Wu in Boston just announced an initiative to ensure all Boston high school graduates will be AI literate. Would you consider implementing something similar for Brookline?
Yes, I think that this is the world our students are going to be coming out into, and they should be literate both in AI and all kinds of technology. I think what it fundamentally comes down to is we have to teach kids how to think critically. And when we talk about AI, we have to teach them to be able to discriminate between what is real and what is fabricated or hallucinated, and then how to leverage technology responsibly.
Liza.
Thank you. We just worked on the AI policy for the Medford schools. And that is, we would like our students to be AI literate, and there needs to be some guardrails around it. Like, for example, we need to tell them what's okay to use, when is it okay to use, when is it not okay to use, when to, ensure that you are not going into academic integrity piece, the dishonesty piece. So I feel like, yes, AI integrity and AI education is very important. Thank you.
Laura?
I think it is very important. I think we have to make sure that our students know that they have to know how to think, know how to write, know how to research, so that if they down the road are using AI, that they're able to check the work of that AI and make sure that it's doing what they actually want it to do. In order to do that, we need to create a system of guardrails. There can be times where it's completely appropriate for students to use AI. Teachers need to make that crystal clear. There needs to be scaffolding involved. And what's appropriate for a senior in high school to use is going to be very different than a sixth grader.
Suzanne.
So AI is all around us all the time. I'm surprised how much it pops up, but it's also very helpful. So we have to teach our students how to use it, when to use it, how to critique it, how to analyze it, how to know what's misinformation and what's real information, how to interpret the data and understand how it could be misinterpreted. So it's really important that we take the opportunity to teach our students about AI. And I think we have to do it. It's just part of our daily life. So it will be there for them.
Thank you for that. So this question is from Justin Brown, the BEU president. The public school of Brookline's paraprofessionals are integral to the success of our students and schools. In addition to being underpaid, they also don't have the same opportunities for professional support that teachers do. What ideas do you have for supporting these educators? And we're going to start with Faiza.
All right, thank you. So I believe this is an issue that we also have where I work. Paraprofessionals, professional development, meaningful professional development is extremely important because they are essential for our students. And it's important that they get trained, they get professional development, and with that helps them, support their students. Yes, I would support it.
Suzanne.
Oh, do you want me to go?
Wait. Yes. No.
So I agree that professional development is very important for our paraprofessionals. Oftentimes we have paraprofessionals, say in our younger grades, supporting literacy. And so we want to make sure that they have the education necessary. We also see paraprofessionals involved in things like our lab program, where again, they are helping to support students learning to read. They're paraprofessionals helping our students learn math and supporting all sorts of social emotional issues as well. So making sure that they have access to high quality professional development so they can do their job to the best of their ability benefits them and our students.
Thank you. Now, Suzanne.
Okay. Paraprofessionals are an integral part of our academic program. And so they deserve and they need to have the opportunity to know the profession, to know how students learn. We need to give them opportunities actually to grow and to become full teachers if they want. Not all do, but if they want that opportunity, I think we owe them some leadership development or certainly classroom development. And we need to talk to them, find out what it is that would be most helpful to them in their work.
Thank you. And Elaine.
So professional development great, but I want to see that we are making smart investments. So when we invest in professional development, I want it to be data driven. I want to see the return on our investment and make sure that we are investing wisely. And, at the same time as investing in the additional services and professional development, I also want to see us investing in helping the paraprofessionals and everybody do their job more efficiently and do it well.
Great. Thank you. So our third question from the audience is asking what your thoughts on holidays, both religious and cultural, and the school calendar. Do you support starting school earlier in September or the end of August? For those who have stressed data-dated decisions, should we be using data to help us decide? Our first one to answer will be Laura.
So this year, school's not going to get out until what, June 26th? That's really, really late. And it's really hard. And so I think we do need to be really thoughtful about our calendar. I do think we have to talk about data here. What are the standards that we're going to use? Like we need in writing policy standards about what is going to constitute a day off. And, is this a day of low attendance? Is that why we're taking it off? Is there a particular percentage of the population that won't be there, whether students or teachers? Days off are challenging on working families as well as people with special needs.
Thank you, Suzanne.
It would be probably nice if we could start before Labor Day with the students. It's a contractual issue, and so that has to be negotiated. We do have the teachers coming before, so the students can start right away. I do believe that we've had a long discussion about this, and I supported the superintendent on her decision for the calendar for this year. I look forward to having that discussion again next year. And I think that we need to recognize what's important to our community members in terms of their holidays and holy days.
Thank you. Elaine?
I think it's important to have a thoughtful approach when we approach issues like the calendar. So first, before jumping to solutions, we need to understand the problems. We need to understand the trade-offs. So if we adjust the calendar, what does that mean for teachers who are trying to run a program that's going to get interrupted every other day? What does it mean for children of parents who work? Is this an equity issue where some kids will be just fine because their parents can afford babysitters or they're home and other kids will just flounder? We have to think about kids with special needs. We have to think carefully about all the implications.
And Faiza.
Yes, thank you. I do want to highlight one thing. I think it's extremely important to, let our superintendent think through it and devise a calendar. What's important, really important, is to stay consistent and fair with whatever approach is taken. It's all right that, if there are no holidays, it's okay.
Thank you.
You have another second.
You can
Okay.
finish your sentence.
No,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, we just have to stay consistent and fair. And that's it.
Thank you. Our fourth question from the audience is, do you have any particular experience supporting LGBTQ individuals? We'll start with Suzanne.
Well, I was an administrator in a school for many years. And so my experience has been the younger children, but the questions would come up. And my experience is having conversations and discussions with students and in classrooms. And so I am in full support of what we currently do, and especially the high school. Sneak that in.
Thank you. Ely?
Yes. So in my nonprofit work as chair of the board of my faith community, I actually invested quite a bit of effort into trying to build more inclusive space for LGBTQ people in the community. And when that didn't work as well as I had hoped, I went back to the drawing board and created a whole new space where people of all different genders and sexualities can feel comfortable and included. I think this is really important.
Thank you. Faiza?
Oh,
Right.
me?
Yep.
Faiza. Okay.
Faiza.
All right. Yes,
Mhm.
I, as a classroom teacher, I have had LGBTQ plus students. We meet them where, we are here for all the students. And so that's what it is. I also have teachers who are LGBTQ and we support them. And it's just team effort constantly. And that's our job. That's our job.
Awesome. And Laura?
I have experienced both professionally and personally. My daughter is gay, and I am the aunt to a trans niece. And so helping both of them navigate that has been really important to me. Also, as a classroom teacher, I am a trusted adult for many students at my school, and working together with things like our GSA, our Gay Straight Student Alliance. That is something that I have had a lot of experience with. So yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, I forgot to turn that on.
Thank you so much. We're now at our last question. This is audience question number 5. So the question is, would you consider consolidating Brookline's K-8 schools if enrollment continues to drop or even with the current enrollment to save costs? We're going to start with Elite.
So this is something that the superintendent has already expressed that she does not have an appetite for and would not be cost saving in the long run. I think when we take decisions or look at problems, we have to be careful not to be penny wise and pound foolish. So sometimes you get a solution that looks good, but in the end will end up costing us more in transportation or in children whose needs can't be met, and now they have to go out of district. I think we need to be very careful when we think about questions like this.
Liza?
Yes, thank you. I too heard Bella said that they did the analysis, and at the end, it didn't seem prudent. So I support that idea, and I wanted to be sure that we keep this in mind that while we are collecting data from all different sources and whatnot, there are some things that cannot be objective, that are subjective. For example, the school culture. Are we shifting students from one school to another? And are we doing some kind of damage to that piece? So that's also important.
Thank you. Laura?
I think the heart of the question is, are we willing to really look at and investigate ways of trying to get back on that more stable financial footing? And I think it is the job of the school committee to really dive deep into data, to ask tough questions, and to see what is possible. In this example, again, the superintendent has already done a lot of work, and it doesn't necessarily look like this particular solution will work. But I do think that we need to look at everything through the lens of what is fiscally responsible, what aligns with our pedagogy, and what reflects our values.
And Suzanne?
This is actually a very emotional suggestion and question. People are very much tied to their local schools. I still talk about Pierce Pride, even though my children left a while ago. So it will take a lot of listening, a lot of input, a lot of feedback, a lot of conversation, and also take a look at whether it's worth the cost, and is there a cost savings. But I think we have to recognize the emotional side of this and how important people's schools are to them.
Thank you. Thank you all. This has been a truly wonderful candidate forum, and I hope that we can all take what we've learned tonight and use it to make informed decisions when we vote on May 5th or before. I know that some of you had more questions. Please follow the suggestions to email those questions to the candidates and to which then you can get them. This recording, as well as the materials that we link to, will be posted on our website and to our YouTube channel shortly. Learning First Brookline looks forward to working collaboratively with the school committee and PSB in the 2026 to 2027 academic year.
Thank you all so much. We will now stop the recording.